Now that we have a page displaying all of our tickets, let's create a way to add new tickets to our database. This video is part of a series dedicated to developing C# applications on Linux. Currently, we're almost done building a full application called the Ticket app. Now, along the way, we've gained a better knowledge of how Linux works and how to make our apps truly cross-platform. If you haven't already subscribed to this channel, then go ahead and do that so you stay informed of new episodes as they come out. And if you're looking for even more .NET, SQL, or C# training, go to imtimcorey.com. The funds from the courses there help pay for this free content. So let's dive back in. We're going to go back to the web project, back to the components, pages, and our tickets component. We're going to just kind of live in here for this episode. And what we're going to do is we're going to minimize these and we're going to set up the way to create new tickets. And I'm going to do this in two parts. One, the code first, that we have everything we need, and then we'll create the Razor syntax for it. So first up, what we're going to do is we're going to say private ticket insert model is new ticket. And we'll say equals new. Okay, now this is VS Code is just saying, hey, this is what that is, but we don't have to, I wish it wouldn't show that, honestly. But the one thing I do want to say is that let's go back over here and look at our models real quick. I do have one thought, and that is for the insert model, we have no default value for priority. Let's set that default value to 5. That way we have a default value. We don't have to set it every time in here. And we know that by default, it's the lowest possible priority. So if they don't put anything, it's a low priority. Okay, private bool is saving. What it's going to do is we're going to track to see, and let's default this to false. We're going to track anytime we are saving a form. So anytime it's doing work, we're going to disable buttons. That way you can't accidentally double click a button and save something twice and have 2 records inserted in the database. So the other thing we're going to do is have a private bool show create form. And equals false by default. By default, Booleans are false, but I like to be explicit here just to be very clear as to what's going on. And what this is going to do is we're going to have a form for creating a new record, but that form by default is not shown. So we only show it once we are once we're done. So let's come down here, and I'm going to say private async task. And we'll say create ticket async. So this is when we are actually ready to save our ticket. Async task space. There we go. This is when we're ready to save our ticket. So we have our ticket insert model done. And we're going to do a try catch here. And we're going to say is saving equals true. So it disables the buttons. And we're going to say error message equals null, so a fresh start on our error message. We're going to say await, and we're going to say ticket API dot create ticket async with the new ticket that we just created. And then we're going to say, let's reset that new ticket. So new ticket equals new. And that resets that back to a fresh new ticket. But let's do that. Let's get our order right here. Show create form equals false. So stop the form from being shown, then reset our ticket model, and then await load tickets async. Remember I said before, we're going to call this method again whenever we create a new ticket or do any other modifications. That way we always have the latest data from the database. That way we could assume, and that's what we do sometimes, especially if we're doing a client-side app like a JavaScript or WebAssembly app. We might assume that this ticket got created and therefore you just display it. But it wouldn't have an ID and it wouldn't have a create date on it. And then the next time you go to the database, we just load that up. But here we're not going to do that. We're going to say, let's go to the database and figure out what all the tickets are, because maybe it didn't get created. Maybe there was an exception that happened, or maybe it half created, but there was a problem with something. Whatever the case may be, we're going to get the latest information from the database. Now, this could be expensive, right? So this could be very expensive if you're always loading from the database and there's a huge list. Please, please, please do not load thousands of tickets onto a page. That's just not efficient. However, if you have, like we do, a personal tickets form, this is not anything that's going to be, for a large group of people, well, then this is fine. If you have, even a couple hundred records, not a problem. But if you get more than that, you'd probably want to do paging or something else. And that's where you could do that in this load ticket async logic, where you'd say, okay, we're on page 3, so reload just page 3 and then display that. And then, every time you change pages, it would go and get the new data. We could also do things like using caching, etc. But for us, for this small amount of data, it's not a problem. Okay, so we're going to do a catch here, and we're going to say exception EX. And then we're going to say error message equals, and our string interpolation failed to create ticket, unlike before where we had failure to load tickets, I believe. And we're going to say that this is EX dot message. Okay. But we're not quite done. Remember, we have the is saving is true here. We want to go to our finally here. That way, regardless of what happens, whether we create it or not, is saving equals false. We're done. So we're done saving. Therefore, we can go ahead and be done. Now, because of the fact we have an exception, we're going to probably not still be showing our form. The exception is probably going to happen right here. We go to save the ticket. So we won't hide the form, we won't create a new ticket, and we won't load the tickets yet. So that's okay. We want it to stop right here if that's where it failed, because maybe we can just tweak the data or something. Maybe you forgot to fill in a field or something like that. But if an exception happened here, well, then it would have stopped showing the form and it would have created a new model, which is fine because it had a problem loading the form data. So that's where, and actually this one has a try catch in it. So even there, we shouldn't have an exception. So it should be the only place you have an exception is right here, just so you know. But these are all good things to test. Okay, so that should be all the code we need for creating the ticket, but we're not done yet in our code. Let's minimize this. Actually, let's not, because I believe if we hit enter here, yeah, it puts the line in the wrong spot when you're collapsed. So you have to come down below the curly brace and put your empty lines and then collapse. It's a little quirky, but you can always put it, in front of line 103 and hit your line returns there. But we're going to have a private void show create form. Okay, and what that's going to do is say show create form equals true. I could do it in line, but I'm going to create a method for it. And one more private void cancel create. And this is similar in the fact we're going to say show create form equals false. But before that, we're also going to say new ticket equals new. And the reason why is because if you have filled it out, we want to wipe that out. So there are the 3 methods we need. Now what we can do is we can come back to the top. We can start using these methods. Let's collapse these down. Now I can start using these methods. We'll come right up here. And what we're going to do is I'm going to put this probably right here above the tickets. So above where we have our loading or no tickets found, we're going to have above that the ability to edit, but below our error message. So at if show create form is false. So it's false, we're going to have a button type equals button. and class equals btn dash, I think primary is fine. And then margin bottom 4. We'll see. We'll see what we want to have for layout. I think that's probably right. But then we have disabled equals at, what, in quotes, at is saving. Okay, so it's going to be disabled if the saving is true. And then we have a on click equals show create form. And then create ticket. And let's go ahead and at least put this on its own line with the button like that. That's still a very long line, so I'll probably at least put 2 lines there like that. Might want to put them all on their own line, but I think that's probably fine. So this is a button. It's going to be for creating tickets. And if the show create form is false, we have this button that says, hey, you want to create a ticket? And then if it's true, we're going to show the form itself. So here's the form. We're going to have an edit form. And we're going to say model equals new ticket in quotes. And the on valid submit is going to be create ticket async. We don't have an on invalid submit, but I'm going to leave it. And class equals margin bottom of 4 to match that button, since the button's going away. Okay, so there's an edit form. In there, we're going to have our data annotations validator and the validation summary. So we're not going to worry about doing per row validation or per field validation. We're just going to do validations at the top. And then we're going to say div class. And I've kind of mapped out beforehand because I don't think you need to see me guess and do live changes. But row, gutter of 3, align, items, end, like so. And then we're going to have a div class equals call medium 3, like so. And then we'll have in there a label class equals form label. And 4 equals new dash title. And we'll call this title. And we're going to have an input text. If you're looking at this and going, that doesn't look like HTML, it looks like something else. That's C#. Actually, that's actually Razor syntax. Input text has some additional things to our text field. And then anything it doesn't know about, it just passes on to the actual input box. So ID equals new title. Because what's going to happen in the actual page is just an input of type equals text. So class equals form control, and then at bind dash value equals new ticket dot ticket title. Okay, and we're going to self-close that. And that is our first entry. Now this is going to be an inline form. I want it to be inline, not stacked. So the next one we'll use actually 4, and this is going to be the description. New description. This is where copy and pasting can really bite you. Be careful. And this is going to be ticket description, like so. So next up, actually, you know what? Let's put it on new lines. That's starting to make this field really wide. Okay, next up, what we'll do is we'll paste again. This time the markdown or medium column is going to be 2. And instead of title, this is priority. So priority. And this is priority. See how easy it is to miss these things? And I'm going to tab as in, and I'm going to say priority. But this is not input text. This is input number. There we go. So input number just allows us to have a number field, a numeric field, instead of having a text field. And last up, we're going to paste it in because I want to have that call set up. It is 3, but we're going to have 2 buttons. Button type equals submit, and class equals btn dash primary, and also margin end of 2, and then disabled. There we go. Equals, in quotes, at is saving. So again, disable the button if we're saving this, and say save ticket. And then one more. This is also a button. Type equals button, and the class equals btn and btn dash secondary. And this also is disabled equals at is saving. And this is going to have a at on click. That's going to be cancel create with a cancel. And this should be, let's make this a couple lines here because this is just too much. Like so. Let's do the same thing here. So now we have 2 buttons. We have a submit button, which notice there's no like C# activity. That's because the type is submit. The submit action is for this this form here, edit form. So on valid submit, create ticket async. So that's what it does on a submit button. We don't have to do anything else. But for this button, we have this calling the on click cancel create, so we can cancel out the creation if there's a request to do so. So with that, I think that's it. So what we're going to do is come over here and run this, make sure it does run, and we can create a new ticket. So always validate what you're doing, make sure it works. But I'm not showing the full process here for a number of reasons. The biggest one is just time. But you want to make sure that you are putting testing in place and doing some good QA on this so that you don't just test the happy path, but make sure that you test that things don't break for other reasons. Okay, so test those exception messages, all the rest. So we have this button now called create tickets or create ticket. This pops up this form. I can say this is our new ticket. Testing out the new ticket creation. And instead of 5, let's notice the exception message, or not the exception message, the validation message says, hey, nope, you're out of range. It's a 3. Let's do a 3. Actually, we don't have 4, so let's create a 4. We hit create ticket, and there we go. There's our new ticket, testing the new creation process. Again, don't worry with the ID numbers. Leave them alone. They're fine. And it's created on 6.8 with a priority of 4. We can create again and say, you know what, cancel. We can create again and say, something like that, hit cancel, and then create again. And that's missing now. So we're all set. We now have the ability to create new tickets. So next up we're going to do is work on modifying tickets. But until then, the source code is down in the description. And thanks for watching. And as always, I am Tim Corey.